everybody, this is Cheri at djsundry.blogspot.com and welcome to the next installment in the Creating Simple Cards series. So this one's a little bit different. We're not actually going to make a card. This one is going to have tips for making quick and easy cards. What do I mean? Well, have you ever found yourself to be in a place where you need a bunch of cards and you don't have a lot of time to make them? That's exactly where I found myself last night. So I want you to come back because we are going to find out how I made all of these cards in just a matter of a few hours and how I did it to make them simple, even though some of them, when you see them, are a little bit more complex. So come right back and we will get started on that video. Okay, so we are back, and as I mentioned, we're not going to actually make a card tonight. This one is just about tips for prepping to be ready to make those cards. So the first tip that I have, tip number one, is have your bases pre-prepared. What do I mean by that? Well, there are a couple of things that you can do to always have bases on hand. You can purchase bases. Most of your craft stores will have bases. Most of your online stores will have bases and various brands where you can purchase your bases. I make my own. So what I do with that is I buy a few different types of paper. I'm going to show you a few things that I have in stock, and it just depends on what I'm doing. Now, this is just the Walmart brand 110-pound index, and it's actually not bad cardstock. Now I will tell you, cardstock, not all cardstock is created equal. So if you're just doing quick cards, simple cards, not too worried about them being heavier weight, this is actually not a bad option. However, I found something that I like, and this is from The Paper Studio is the brand. It's from Hobby Lobby, and I just bought this pack a little over a week ago. It's the first time I've used it, and I'm actually really impressed with it. It is, I chose their cardstock pack. It's typically $16.99. However, if you watch their sales, you can get that for 40 or 50% off every few weeks. They'll drop them. So now that I have tried this and I like it, I definitely will be watching for the sales when I'm getting low. So this is the extra heavy weight in white. I actually bought it in craft as well because I need to prep a bunch of craft card bases to have in my stash. So then I take them. I also really like, and it's very comparable to this, only it's a bit more expensive, but it makes beautiful card bases. The Nina Solar White Classic Crest in 110 pounds. Now it's quite a bit more expensive. But it makes beautiful card bases. So this one has a little bit more of a warm undertone than the Solar White. The Solar White is a more true white. So it just kind of depends on what you're looking at, what you're looking to spend. But I was really impressed with this. I have to say I was very surprised that I was going to like this as much as I did, because I really like the Solar White. So I just simply take my cardstock, and I will take several, I'll take, a half hour or so, 20 minutes, and I will cut my bases. Now, like I said, you can purchase bases, but I make enough cards that I found that for me it's a lot more economical to prep my own cards. So I pull out my big tonic cutter and I cut them in half. So this is half of an 8.5 by 11 sheet of cardstock. And so is this, just a different orientation. So you can cut it either way, and I usually keep a few cut and ready. The other thing that I sometimes do, although I've noticed that I did not do this on this longer card, but I went ahead and took the extra few minutes to go ahead and score these in the middle. So they are ready to go. All I have to do is fold them and really put some pressure on the crease, and I have the card bases ready to go. So when I need a bunch of cards in a hurry, and I don't have time to make card bases, hopefully I have pre-planned for that by having quite a few in my stash. Tip number one is an absolute must for me, whether I am making 100 cards or whether I am making 5 cards. I have to have my bases at the ready because sometimes I only have a half hour to run to the craft room and make a card. So keep some bases ready. So that's tip number one. Moving on, we're going to come to tip number 2. And that is a tip that I learned from Tim Holtz. And that is to keep your backgrounds when you are having your creative playtime. So I have this little bin that I think I got it from TJ Maxx or somewhere, that I just keep different backgrounds in. So earlier in the pandemic, when we started seeing more demos, Tim Holtz was doing his demos online, and we started seeing more of that kind of stuff because people couldn't get out to the craft stores as much. I started following along, and I would try new techniques. So if you scroll through here, you'll see some of these are just when I was playing with die cuts. I had some extra ones that I made, and so I tossed them in here. I've got some pieces parts here. This is alcohol ink. I could use those for a little thing. I don't keep a lot of the small, well, there's more in here right now, but typically I try to use up as much as I can of my paper, so I'll keep some smaller ones in here. Sometimes there are larger ones in here. I also was playing with 3D embossing folders, so I have that one in here. How about alcohol inks? I was playing with alcohol inks. This was on some silver cardstock. I don't know if it was alcohol ink cardstock or what it was, but playing with alcohol ink, so I just throw it in here. This was playing with distress and different embossing folders. Not my favorite background, but you never know. A little piece I might be able to use for something, and actually I did make a card with part of this that turned out okay. How about watercolor painting? I was doing some practice watercolors and just trying to learn and play. Well, I could use these for a card sometime. So then we move into some of the smaller scraps that from other larger backgrounds that I have cut off. I've used making the card. Looks like this one was some alcohol inking through stencils, some jelly plate plain I was using, some more watercolor. This was from a class that I was taking from online card classes. Both of these were from that. Just toss them in there. Some stamping. I was working on a card that I'll actually see in another video, and I was like, oh, I've got some extra ones of these, so it went in there. Didn't need it for the card. More jelly plating. Playing with different mediums of paper, different weights of paper that I had with distress inks. More alcohol ink background. So needless to say, lots of different things that I keep in here, and that is tip number 2, because you will see in the cards that I show you at the end of this video, having this really saved me, because I could do a lot with some of these backgrounds just from when I was learning about my products and learning about my papers and my embossing folders and my jelly plates, all of those things that I was learning to teach me. Now I have this stash. Now I need to replenish this stash after last night, because I did make 12 cards last night, and every one of them was from something out of this bin. So let's keep moving on to tip number 3. Now, the reason I needed so many cards, and I'm going to pull aside, I found that I need a bunch of thank you cards. And by a bunch, I needed about, I think it was 18 or 19 thank you cards. So I keep cards when I make them. These are all older cards that I had made, thank you cards. And they were ready for me, but as you can see here, I have nowhere near enough, and so that's why I needed to make some cards. So as I was thinking about the cards that I was going to make, I was like, you know, I have lots of stamps that say thank you. I have all of my backgrounds. I have the die that I had used here. I could do thanks. If I really wanted to, I could pull out the Cricut and do thanks. I have so many options, and I have, with the different backgrounds I had, I was like, oh, this would look really pretty stamped just right here, or this one would look really pretty with that big die cut. But to simplify things, I chose one thing that would work for all of the cards. So for me, that was a die set. This particular die set was this from the Spellbinder Stamp of the Month Small Card Making, or Small Stamp of the Month Club. Sorry, that's a mouthful. Small Stamp of the Month Club. It was called Layered Mix and Match Sentiments, and I can tell I'm going to use this and I'm going to love it. But when you see the cards, you'll see that I had some that really stamping would not have been appropriate, or I would have had to add more layers. I have others that it just worked best. Now, some of these would have been great with this nice big die. Some of them would have been great with stamps, but by finding one that would cover all of them, it made it very versatile. So that is my third tip, is when you have to make something and you're in a hurry, find something that will work across all of your mediums. So even though my cards are all different, I had that one unifying theme. So our 3 tips: have card bases ready, have backgrounds ready, and the third tip is use a medium for your sentiment that you can use across all of them that you have, and then you're ready to go. So what could I do with that? Well, here you go. This is what I had. So this was a background. It was already done. It was painted. Everything was ready. All I had to do was trim it down and put on the die. Add a few sequins, and we were done. Now, I also chose to stamp on the inside of these because this is for a particular theme for this set of set of cards. So, and I also need to get these in the mail probably tomorrow morning, and so that was really helpful to go ahead and have that stamp to put in there. So I went through and I stamped all of them. So that was the first one, already painted, ready to go. Why? Because I had had some time where I had just played. This one's very different and a completely different orientation, but you can see the same thing. It was already done. It was a piece that I had played with. Yeah, I could, do some stuff and make it a little fancier or clean it up a little bit, but I like the simplistic watercolor effect from this one. Already done because it was in my stash. I told you we'd see that butterfly. I took a different one that I had not stamped on, but again, this one was already done. It was one that when I was experimenting with on another bit for another set of cards that I was making, I was experimenting on how I was going to paint it, and I just wanted to play with the butterfly. It was new to me, and there we go. I had it in my stash ready to go. All I had to do was add my die and I was done. Next one, same thing. This one was a embossed background where I was learning how to add the technique where I was painting or putting inks on my embossing folder before I ran it through. And so the background was already there at the die cut, a few little sequins in there, and we are ready to go. Still a very pretty card, simple. Here's another one just like that. Something I've been playing with, different distress inks on that embossing. This was actually the deboss side of this exact same one. So again, I was teaching myself how to do these techniques, and that gave me a nice set of backgrounds. I already have seen one like that, same one, different colors, upside down. So this one, again, one that I was playing with for a card at some time a few weeks ago. Never went ahead and made a card, so I put my background in my background stash. Isn't that gorgeous? Great, great little card. All I had to do, add some sequins, add my die, ready to go. Another one with the butterfly that I had pre-painted, another one with that one that I had pre-painted. I played around with the orientations on them to see kind of where I would place the card so I could get that stamp or to get the die in there the best, and there we were all done. This one, another one that I was playing with, this is an embossing folder that I was playing with the inks, only I didn't want to use the whole background, I just wanted a strip of it. So I cut about, I think it's about a 2.5 inch strip. This is such a solid card base that we're good to go. You know, throw on a few sequins and thank you, and you're done. And so this one, the same thing. So again, just a matter of a few hours because all of the prep work was done. This, I would definitely not consider, this one? This one, I mean, it's not a difficult technique, but it definitely is one that takes a little bit more work. Not something that I would consider a simple card, but because I had the pieces in my stash, it was simple. So what can you do with this? Well, absolutely, you can do the same thing, have your stash and ready to go, but you could also do it with dies. You could have lots of die cut images ready to go. You know, if I had a stash of thank you note or thank you sentiments all stamped or all embossed, or I can't even think, all die cut and ready to go, then that would have made it even simpler. That's not something that I really want to have a lot of stuff like that hanging around, but I always save my extras in a place so that if I just needed one really quick, you know, I could put together one single card in a matter of about 5 or 10 minutes because of having all of this stuff ready. What about sentiment strips? You could have a bunch of sentiment strips all ready to go. If you like foiling, you could have a bunch of sentiments already foiled and ready to go and in your little die cut place or wherever, however you keep them. Jennifer McGuire is really good about keeping her leftover sentiments and die cuts so that she can put together a card really quickly. So lots of things that you can do to really simplify things. But now I have all of these lovely handmade cards that I'm ready to send to all of their recipients and ready to go just because we spent some time playing and we didn't throw out our playtime. So I hope that that gives you some inspiration to go ahead and get some cards made to save your stash so that when you're playing you can always come back and use them. So thanks so much for stopping by today, and remember, take some time to enjoy the little things. Have a great day. Bye.